Let's talk Tom Brady, shall we? Okay, can we have the real talk on the radio show? All right. Tom Brady's, his teeth got redone at some point in the last 10 years, right? His teeth look really good, but he also, it's like when he talks and with his smile, they're not veneers, but there's something with the teeth. His face looks really good, like almost too good, and it does, the shape is, but he's also, and I should point this out, a lot of people, when they get in their 30s and 40s and they get really, really healthy, obviously they don't have the baby fat, like their face can look a little different. But we'd be honest and say, like, that guy looks like he at minimum gets Botox, and at maximum there's something else, right? Like, that's a good-looking man who has found this, like, fountain of youth that Ponce de Leon couldn't find when he's in Tampa. But at some point, Father Time catches up to you, or your team's just not that good, and at some point, everybody's got to retire. We thought Tom Brady was going to retire before. Now, of course, he hasn't retired, right? So here's Tom Brady on his Let's Go podcast talking about his team.
Now that I was saying to Alex this morning, I was doing treatment, man, it's a hard sport we've chosen, and it's tough. It challenges you in every area, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And certainly at this stage we're in, this is where you got to dig deep and see what you're all about and see what kind of character you have and see what you believe in and what your values as a team. Do you stand up for each other when you face adversity, or do you not? And that's what we're all trying to figure out every time we take the field. I said last week that there's no immediate retirement in my future. There was a retirement in the past, but I moved on from that. But certainly not. I made a commitment to this team, and I love this team, and I love this organization. I told them in March I was playing, and I've never quit on anything in my life. I know a bunch of teammates that we all count on one another to be at our best and to work hard and to put the team first. And that's what you commit to, and that's what you want your teammates to commit to as well. And I was a part of an amazing organization that taught me so many great things over 20 years in New England. And I was a part of a great college that it was always about the team. And when I got to the Bucs, I've had nothing but a great experience here. I want to keep fighting as hard as I can. And I'm always trying to do better. I'm always trying to work hard, and I'm always trying to commit more to the things that are important to me. And this team is very important to me, and I certainly want to be the best I can be for them.
I guess my question is, Jason Stewart, did you hear him say he was coming back next year? Because he didn't say that in any of this.
Yeah, no, he never said it.
Yeah, he just said he's not quitting this season.
Correct.
Okay. I love all the things he talks about, and he kind of laughs off any idea of quitting. I ain't quitting. I'm here for all these guys. He loves the aspect of a team. I also think he's giving you all the breadcrumbs as to why he wants to keep playing football. Right? He loves playing football. He loves the process of it. He loves the guys. He loves he loves winning. Honestly, Tom Brady completely gets it. It's so hard to not be on a team. And I know what happens, what TV executives like to think. They're like, man, you come over to, because he's going to Fox when he's done. And they'll go like, hey, we're here at Fox. We're a team. We're a family. We're a family, right? The only difference is you don't have a helmet, shoulder pads. Nobody's hitting your knees or your back or your neck. You don't have to go to Alex afterwards, except if you had a tough time traveling. But it's not the same. It's just not. You can have a meal with people on the crew night before the game, but it's a team-ish. It's just not the same energy as when you watch it. I will tell you, it's going to be a really hard for him if he calls games in person as opposed to the studio. Because you're there and you're like, man, I just want to be in that locker room breaking down the tape and making the adjustments and, figuring out the hots and what they're doing defensively, I want to put on a headset and call the right play. Now I can see it from up here. But nothing replaces the feeling of being a part of something. Nothing replaces the feeling of competing for wins and losses and the actual scoreboard at top. Nothing will ever replace that. Zero. No, none of these things are in any way comparable. They're just not. So with that in mind, like, we got to be realistic about this stuff for Brady. In all the things that he loves about the sport. And I I think that part of when you make a decision playing, not playing, and I don't think that this is what's leading to what is being reported as a divorce. I don't think that's what it is. Do I think this is part of her argument? Sure. But I also think that there's probably part of it that says for him, if she can't appreciate me playing football, football is who I am. It's what I've done for 40 years. Then she doesn't actually like me. She just needs a body there. People don't get divorced or stay married based upon whether or not they quit their job. Could it be part of it is he signed for next year, whenever, with Fox, and that he's never going to be home on weekends? Sure, that could be part of it. But again, even that, if you're in a committed relationship and your marriage is good and this is the only thing, then that's something you kind of work through. You still have the rest of the week and plenty of money, and the kids can travel with you to the games and all that other stuff. But I think what he's articulating as he's talking is when he retired, he thought about playing, not playing. He thought about his wife, his family, his kids, and would he miss Sundays? And when he retired, and then when he decided to come back, he actually, in many ways, you miss the losses more than the wins. You miss the wins, but it's the math equation. It's the figuring out how to fix it. There's nothing like it in the world. And I get it. If you're not into it, like, here's the best example. Okay. Your wife, your friend, a business partner who you travel with. If you're really a sports guy, you land and you check your phone you check Twitter to see who got hurt, what happened. Right? Like if you're really a sports guy, you get in a rental car, Chevy Malibu, anybody? And the first thing you're looking for is sports station. And I hope it's mine, and I hope you can, just plug in your phone and listen to the iHeartRadio app. But I understand that if you're a sports guy, you turn on a sports station. Or you got the Sirius app and you can find your sports station there, or you got the iHeart app and you can find our shows there. And if you're not, and you get into a car, you're like, what are you looking for? You're like, I'm looking for the Fox Sports Radio. Like, I listen to Gottlieb. Huh? Again, we think everybody thinks our way. We think everybody thinks about fantasy football, about the betting lines, about what's happening, what happened in the NBA, World Series. We don't. And the non-sports guy gets in the car like, dude, can we just listen to some music? Like music? You can listen at any time. Like 3 to 5, I can listen to my boy Gottlieb loud and clear on the East Coast. Been listening to him for years. That's Brady. Brady trying to explain to somebody, to Giselle, like, no, you don't understand. Like, we get in there, we watch. What do you do at 5 in the morning? We get in there and watch film. We get a bunch of coffee. We start drawing stuff up on the boards. Like, wouldn't you like to sleep in? No. I don't want to sleep in. I want to fix it. So I think that's what Brady's kind of explaining. I don't think he's committed in any way, nor has he said to coming back next year. He's simply saying, like, I'm not quitting. I want to fix it. This is why I'm here. Yes, Dan Byer.
The whole retirement thing, and I feel awkward talking about Brady's personal life in the essence of, if it's over, doesn't that make him wanting to play more understandable? Like, so he retires in February or whenever it was, and then comes back. And then now all of a sudden, Giselle says, okay, I just can't do this anymore. So wouldn't that, him being like, okay, well, if that's over, then I might as well just continue to keep playing. Right? I mean, you would think like it's, so like the talk of like, this is why I just feel awkward because it's so TMZ. Like, but there's this sense that I just, maybe the marriage is so far gone that it's not going to be saved.
Yeah.
So then he'll just fall back on football and keep playing that.
He might. He might. He might just keep playing. Might just keep playing football. But I think what he loves about football is not what people think. None of it was money being mentioned, right? Like he really loves football. He loves all the different aspects of it. I feel the same way about sports. You know, like when I was, people ask me all the time, like, you went to Israel for a month? I was like, yeah, dude, it's so much fun. Like coaching the games are great. Figuring out, going into halftime, Sky Etten, who's at Princeton, is my assistant. We just trying to like, all right, what do we want to do here? You know, how are we going to, it's like an all equation there. Like, all right, we'll do this, we'll do that. But then managing their bodies and how much you practice and how much you eat and when you eat and who do you get on to, like all of that's different stuff. It's fun. It's fun. And if you don't get it, it's okay. You know, I know people who are in sales, they're like, closing a deal is fun, but closing a deal when the person at first said no and then eventually says yes, even more. Like, that's the energy I need on a day. So I'm with you. I'm not convinced that he's not going to play after this year because he understands all of those things you don't get anywhere else. You just don't. I love broadcasting games. It's amazing. Ask anybody who broadcast, or at least ask me, would you give up everything you have to have one more season of eligibility? And the answer is yes. Yesterday. Because that's more fun. It's more fun. What do you think, Jay Stu?
About the notion that he is going to play longer because his marriage is over?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a way to look at it. I also think that, like, I'm going to keep going back to what Ben Roethlisberger said last week, you know? Ben he's not a take artist or anything, but he came out on his podcast and he's like, look, Tom Brady's the best that's ever done it, but he just looks like a guy who doesn't want to be out there. And for me, I think I thought it was smart. Like, looking back, it wasn't just kind of a hot take. I think he was actually relating to Brady. He knows what it feels like. So I think his passion for the game, whether it's his marriage, whether the failures of the team or anything, I think it's taken away that love for what he does. And knowing him and how much he prepares, is he willing to go through all that again? And I think that's why they keep asking him. Like, they asked him last week and they asked him this week on his Let's Go podcast about retiring. That's a weird thing to ask a guy in week 6, isn't it?
I think he had. One would guess that he felt like he needed to talk about it.
Yeah, because it's been asked.
Right.
Like, I think there is a sentiment out there that's like, is he going to retire before the season ends?
No, I think there was, and that's why he said he's not retiring before the season ends. I get it, but I think what you're hearing him talk through is all the things he loves about football. But I would also tell you that it's different when you don't have the relationships he's had in the past. You know, that's a very different way to do it. You know, it's. I'll just tell you, as you know, when you switch jobs and you go to places, and you're like you try and fit into other people's inner circle. It's just weird and awkward. Whereas we are at a place look, I was at ESPN for 10 years. I literally worked for every different entity. Right, I wrote for the magazine. I wrote for .com. I did digital stuff before digital was actually big. I did radio, SportsCenter, news, games, which is called remote. I did remote and studio. That's like Hatfields and the McCoys. Worked for both sides. Worked in the daily shows as well. So I knew everybody. So I remember going to CBS, and CBS those people are really nice and in many ways delightful. But they had kind of their own cliques. They had their own things that they did. It's a much smaller shop. Nobody lived in the area. Whereas at ESPN, everybody lived back then, everybody lived right there except for the analysts. So you go to the grocery store and you'd see a friendly face. I mean, it was almost like a college campus. Then you go to Fox, and that's different because there is an area where a lot of people live. I don't live there, but a lot of people live. But there's also kind of their own cliques, their own way of doing things. You know, they call things different things. Like, I get that it can be even something you love. You still love all of the different aspects of the job, but the relationship part is hard because you're like creating new relationships and pretending like you have some bond you don't actually have. That part is weird. You know, like this, I'll give you another example. The two of us, Dan Byer and I, and then Ramos, we've worked together now for 5 years. Okay, we've obviously worked through. Ryan left to become Colin's producer, and Jay,
Gavin was here for a little
and then
while.
Gavin was here for a little bit. Then he left to work for the Angels, and then now we have, and then now we have Jason. But it's not. I've worked with Isaac's replaced Dan for 5 years. It's still not the same when it's not Dan, right? Because Dan has he does what I do, and he has an incredible memory, but there's just a relationship there. And I'm sure it was weird for John and Dan when I first got here, because you'd been working with the previous guy, and he gets it, right? All that stuff. So I can actually agree with both of you and try and tell you, like, this is where Brady is going to struggle this offseason, is he knows that all of those things that he loves about football, you can't find anywhere else. And yet, I'm sure at some point he's got to stop playing football, and he doesn't necessarily know what to do. That I say this all the time. Transition is hard. Change is good. Transition is hard. And the process of walking away from all the film study, all the work, all the body work, all the stretching, all the eating, like that's his normal. And so even if he doesn't love this group or how things are going, and there can be a little pouting in it or a little, God, this is not working out thing where you can give off that appearance. And maybe that's true. Maybe it's like, man, I shouldn't have come back with these guys. What am I doing? And now it's out of obligation. Nobody wants a quarterback out of obligation, but it's not like he can go quit. That would suck. I think these are all the things that he's going through.
The question I would have is with all those things he's going through, is that enough to maintain a high-quality NFL quarterback for an organization? Or is that just too much stuff going on in your plate where you can focus on being what you have to do? Because as playing a high level of sports, whether it was in college or NBA type stuff, I mean, you got that stuff going on. You got like this, that. It's going to take away a little bit of your mental preparation for a game.
It's not as much fun when you don't love the people you're playing with. It's why there's one of the things he said in that is there's the famous Bo Schembechler, pregame speech or preseason speech. The team. That's played for all those Michigan players, right? The team. It's all about the team. I'll never forget. I was playing my first year professionally in Russia. We were winning the first ever team since the free market to win that we weren't the Russian army team, CSKA. And we beat Unix Kazan. We're in Kazan. We're closing out the thing, and everybody's going crazy. And I felt nothing. And it was the first time in my life that I'm winning a championship. I'm getting an actual fiscal bonus, right? Getting a bonus. And the only thing on my mind was, okay, how quickly can I get my money in cash and get back to the States? And it was a weird thing because the way I play, the way I think, it's all about team. And now my team's doing well, but I didn't have a connection with those guys. So that's a hard thing to know that he may never be able to get that feeling again. The relationship he had with Julian Edelman or Wes Welker or any of this guy, I don't know if that's coming back. I don't think it is, even if he knows that if he leaves football, all those the good things are going away.